Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World Weekly Series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we are going to be talking about the biggest co-living community in the world in Semkovo, Bulgaria, with my guest, founder Matthias Zeitler. Matthias, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Becky.
Thank you. Now you're here, you're there on stream, but you're also here, Matthias. So thank you for being in both
Yay.
spots at the same time. I personally visited Semkovo January 4th of this year. So you can see from this picture behind me, it's very snowy. It does get quite cold in Bulgaria, but we're going to talk about that. So, Matthias, first of all, can you tell us a bit about your background and what brought you to Bulgaria in the first place?
So for a biggest part of my life, I had a normal job in normal companies, and then I started a small startup around international search engine optimization. After a while, I sold it, and then I decided I need to find a great place for myself. And I looked around the world, traveled a bit, and I found Bulgaria. And Bulgaria has amazing people, amazing culture, Mediterranean climate, but most important, 10% flat income tax. And for me, this was like one of the main attractions to decide, yes, I want to move to Bulgaria and build a life here.
All right. So, can you take us through the beginning of when you got to Bulgaria? Because I don't know if people, maybe a lot of people aren't aware. This is not your first project, but I want to show people that you do have quite a track record of success.
So for the last 9 years or so, I built a community around co-working in a place called Bansko. It's also a mountain resort in Bulgaria. And I went there with my friend Uwe many years ago. And because there were not many other interesting people, nomads, foreigners that we wanted to engage with, we decided we built our own community. And we built this community around the idea of co-working. And then over the years, it has grown and grown. I also started an event there called Bansko Nomad Fest, where we attracted a few hundred people for 1 week with like a lot of activities to showcase them what the life in Bansko is like. So Bansko was growing and growing, but last year I sold it because I decided I want to focus on a new project. And the new project that we have is an amazingly big building. It's about 18,000 square meters, 220 apartments in a place called Semkovo. It's also a mountain resort, but it's not really a village. It's just a place in nature with a few other smaller buildings around. There's some ski slopes. There's, of course, opportunities for mountain biking. But most important, it's like a place where we're not disturbed by other people. So we can be noisy. We can do whatever we want to do here. And we found a building that's basically the size of a small village. So we expect that there will be about 300 people here. Sometimes we do big events. I'm just coming off from a call from somebody who wants to do a big music festival here in the summer with 1,300 people coming and 20 DJs and many stages. And of course, this is only possible if you have an area that is big enough to make big things happen. If you are like in a city or in a town, you always have to also consider what the neighbors are doing. But here we have our own nomad utopia, basically.
Okay, so like I said at the beginning, this is the biggest co-living community in the world. As you said, 200 apartments. There's a whole lot going on in this building, and this is not the whole building. I could not get the whole building in a picture. That is how big it is. But yeah, let's start with, you know, why, like you said, there's not, you don't have to worry about the neighbors, but okay, are there any neighbors around, Matthias? What is like the closest, for example, is there a supermarket around? People I think are really going to be curious about this.
So Semkovo is about 20 kilometers to the next small town, to Belica. Semkovo itself has at the moment zero permanent residents. There's two university guest houses here, and there's a smaller hotel, and there's some like small holiday cabins here. But as I said, so this is not even a village. It does not have like a town center or anything. So we're going to build all the infrastructure in the building. We're going to have our own grocery store. We will do a weekly farmers market. We will have our own restaurant. We have a pool. We might have a bowling and a climbing hall. So there are several facilities that our owners are currently taking into consideration, determining what are the priorities. There's many things where we have already determined what we need, like we need workspace, we need event space. We have built a kitchen for 250 people. So there's like many areas here that we have. Of course, we want to have a big gym. And we have absolutely massive mountains. So basically, once you step outside the building, You're directly in nature. The forest starts here. We're at 1600 meter, but we can go up another 1500 meters to the peak of Mosala, which is the biggest mountain. So there's like lots of sports activities possible here. And my personal mini goal is like if we convince 250 people to move here permanently as residents, then we can apply to become a small municipality. And once we are a small municipality, we can have a small. So the secret is out. We are trying to revitalize this area here.
Yeah, that is no small feat from what it sounds like, but it sounds like you're just going to have everything inside the building and make everything that anyone could ever imagine that they wanted there, and everyone will be there together. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the idea, right? It's community driven. We don't want to like over program all the areas and all the locations and all the events, but we rather want to provide a platform for the community to do whatever makes them happy and to do it here and support them to make it happen.
Okay, so part of that is the fact that, like you said, there are 200 apartments there. Now, are these apartments that you are getting investors for and you're renovating them all yourself and then you're going to invite people to rent them, or how does this work?
So unfortunately, I'm not rich enough to buy a building like this and renovate it. And of course, this building has existed here in the past and it was run as a hotel for many years. But Semkovo is not really a touristic place. So if we would have just found like one big investor to do this project, it would probably not work. Our idea is that we are building a community and it's also a community business. So the model is people buy an apartment that if you buy an apartment, this is your private property. But then you're also becoming part of the cooperative that's running the co-living business, which is like all the co-living areas, which is a separate building with about 8,000 square meters. And I think this is the key to unlocking and developing a destination like this. We have at the moment 92 owners from 32 different countries. Most of them are nomads, so they already have friends that could be guests here in the future. About 20% of our owners are from Sofia, like Bulgarians that run their own business, entrepreneurs. Many of them have pretty successful businesses, and they also want to use our location in the future for team retreats and for company gatherings. So the idea is that the community is going to help us to develop this project, and at the end, once it's successful, we will all benefit together.
Sounds amazing. And also, it is going to require a lot of cooperation, a lot of juggling. I know there's a voting system that you've told me about. So how is it going to, what does it look like if you want to buy one of these places? How many units are left? And what's the average price in total, including renovation costs?
So out of the 225 apartments that exist, we have sold 175, which means there's 50 left. Generally, we are doing a monthly tour, so people come on site to take a look at what we are building here. It's also very interesting. Some people came like a year ago when you couldn't really see any progress on the construction. And now, in the meantime, we have finished about 80 apartments already. They can see what the finished apartments look like. We have started renovating many of the common areas and the co-living areas. So normally people come on site. They take a look. We also do like a mini tour and a quick presentation. Sometimes we have other owners here, so people can already get to know some of the other members of the future community. And then when they have found their dream home, we have a website, reservation.colivingsemkovo.com, where we have a list of all the remaining apartments and the floor plans and the size and the cost and so on. And then people can select. In general, like most of the apartments are the same size, around 30 square meters. And for an apartment of this size, after renovation and furniture, you're probably looking at about 50,000 euros for the purchase of the apartment. Once you have purchased it, we help, of course, with the legal process. So we have a lawyer that's taking care of the notarial transactions. We help with the renovation, so owners can select online what they want, for example, for flooring or any type of special request like a colored wall. We also have a furniture concept that we developed with an interior designer. So if owners want to have the same look and feel as the other apartments, they can also select this online. Or, of course, they can bring their own furniture, go to IKEA, go to Jysk, hire a local carpenter. So the idea is that even though it's a community project, of course, it's also like private property. So people should be able to furnish their apartments however they want. So they're not like bound that it looks like a hotel in the end.
So you do get your own deed. You own your apartment in this bigger building, right?
Yeah, so I think this is also very important. So people don't invest into a co-living business here. People invest into real estate, and you get your own deed. Your rights are protected in the catastrophe. This means you can also take a mortgage on your apartment. You can rent it out. You can sell it. So it's independent of the co-living cooperative setup. And we specifically did it this way because, of course, there's risk. So who knows if this co-living business will really take off? But what we know is that you have an apartment, and the apartment is in a beautiful natural location. So people always have this real estate interest, and I think this is much better than compared if we just would have sold 0.5% of shares in this co-living business, and then the whole building belongs to the business. No, here the building belongs to the owners, and only the co-living areas belong to a separate company that is a co-living cooperative, and it's operating and running this. And owners can, of course, also vote on many decisions of the co-living business. For example, I don't own the co-op. The co-op has hired me. I'm the chairman. The owners have voted for me. We also have a management board and a control board. And there's many things that the owners decide, especially what we should do with budgets, like what areas should we renovate, how should we renovate them, how should we furnish them, what are the future rules of usage, what type of events do we want to host here. So the owners have an online platform where they have impact in all these decisions and ultimately vote on them.
Okay. Quick question about that. So as a homeowner myself, I know there can be a lot of different, managerial decisions when you're in part of a building. So you said it's an online platform. It's not going to be too time consuming, I would imagine, even if you're living somewhere else and you're just logging on, making the decisions as one of the owners. It's not made to be too like time consuming, right?
No, and it's also it's something that owners can choose to engage in, right? So we have hired a professional team. We work with a lot of professional planners and architects and designers and so on. So if owners want to totally disengage and say, okay, I believe that the professionals are making all the right decisions and maybe the other owners vote on the right stuff, then they never have to be engaged in any of this like day-to-day decision making. But if owners say, this is my home. I want to have more input. I want to decide, for example, what type of artwork we will put in the common hallways. Then they have an opportunity to do this, but it's completely optional. So the building and the business runs also if owners want to be totally hands off.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned that you can get a mortgage if you have the deed to the property. Is that true if you are a foreign person trying to buy into this? Like, for example, I'm American. Would I be able to get a mortgage to buy this apartment in Bulgaria? And is it possible for me to buy or own property in Bulgaria if I'm American or not from the EU, for example?
So the good news is that everyone can own property here, regardless where you're from, which nationality are you from. As for loans, this is a little bit more tricky. So Bulgarian banks are very risk averse. Most of them want to give loans to their citizens. We also have some banks that give loans to foreigners, but it's normally to foreign residents. So you need to have a job in Bulgaria and you need to be a resident of Bulgaria to get a bank loan. We are trying to work with banks to also offer other forms of financing, but so far, basically, if you're a foreigner, it's better if you bring the money and pay it outright because getting a loan is very difficult, requires a co-signer from Bulgaria. So it's not like they exclude foreigners, but in reality, if you're not a resident here, it's very difficult.
The other thing too is I'm not sure everybody's aware, but Bulgaria is now part of the Schengen as of 2024. So there, if you are a foreigner coming into to stay in Bulgaria, there are rules about how much time you can spend. But it now, means that if you were living in the EU before, it's all easy now to just stay in Bulgaria and Romania, I believe, as well, as long as you want.
Yeah, yeah, so the entry to Schengen was also a pretty big deal for the country. Because it means that the transportation of goods is much easier now. So there's no more border controls. And also, a lot of people expect that this will make products a little bit cheaper because there's less transport cost. Trucks don't have to wait for a week at the Romanian border. Also, for us in Semkovo, it's pretty cool because there's a border to Greece. And now, without border controls, it means that in about 2 hours we can make it to the beach. While before, sometimes we had to wait like an additional half an hour or so at the border.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So, how would you get to Semkovo at the moment if you don't rent a car from Sofia or you don't bring your own car?
So at the moment, we're not operating yet, right? So there is, of course, like public transportation, for example, to Belice, to the next town. There's a bus and there's a train. Also, there's private shuttles from Sofia Airport to Semkovo. But once we're operational, there's two additional things that we want to offer. On the one hand, we want to do group shuttles. So with fixed times to get people here, similar to a lot of other destination hotels would arrange this. And this, of course, makes it much more affordable than taking a private transfer. And the other thing is we are working with a Bulgarian company that's doing rental cars, electric rental cars, by time and by distance. And we are trying to convince them to put a station here in Semkovo that basically you could pick up one of the electric cars at Sofia Airport. You pay a small fee and then you drop it off here in Semkovo one way. And then people that are in Semkovo can also rent these cars for like day trips to get around the area.
Okay, speaking of that, that's exciting. First of all, another exciting thing you told me right before we started recording about the ATM that Semkovo is going to be getting. Is that right?
Yes, so I'm very happy. I mean, as I mentioned, this is like we have to build our own infrastructure. And even though in the building we do mostly cashless transactions, still, of course, from time to time you need to have some cash. And because the next town with the next ATM is 20 minutes away, I've been trying to convince one of the financial service providers to put an ATM here. Many said no, but we found one company, EasyPay, it's a Bulgarian company. One of our owners had personal connections to their founders, so they agreed to put an ATM here into Semkovo. And so step by step, we are upgrading the facilities and the services so that by the time we can open, we really have everything we need here.
It's amazing. Congratulations on that. I imagine that you're going to also have like, you're going to accept credit cards if people are buying things in the shop, in the co-living space, or at the restaurant.
Yes, I mean, this is the idea. Everything will be cashless. The grocery store that we're going to have is a pretty innovative Bulgarian company, and they're going to put a self-service store in here where people self-check out and then pay with a card. Same with the restaurant. We will do some self-ordering, similar to the kiosks that maybe you have seen at McDonald's, where people can select which meals they want and they pay and they pick up their food. So we are doing here a combination of things to make it easier, but also to kind of live a little bit in the future and not in the past. For us, also like doing things like self-service and self-ordering helps with not requiring so much staff. And this also means, of course, that we can maintain a lower cost structure than a normal hotel where all these things you would have to hire people for.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I'm wondering about the cleaning services. If I come and I rent a place and I stay for a month, am I going to have cleaning included every day like it would be a hotel, or how would that work?
Yeah, so for the cleaning, of course, we need staff, even though I have already looked at some cleaning robots that can drive around themselves. But I think in reality, we will have housekeeping staff. We will offer regular cleaning, obviously, for check-in and check-out. And then probably every 2 weeks included in the rate. But then also guests can decide if they want to have more house cleanings, they can just book additional cleanings for their rooms. We will also have in the hallways equipment. So we will have vacuum cleaners and cleaning materials in like cupboards on each floor so that people can also clean the apartments themselves. I mean, it's similar like an apartment where you live. So normally you don't have like housekeeping or cleaning ladies that come every single day to clean your apartment, but you have the equipment that you do regular cleaning, and then maybe once a month you ask a cleaning lady to do a deep clean.
Yeah, for all these things that you are going to have around in like cabinets and things. I know that's the benefit of living in a city is like, oh, I need something. Let me go to a store just down the street. We're not going to have that luxury. But what I think is going to happen is a lot of collaboration is going to happen where we're going to tell people, oh, you're coming in today. Can you pick something up for me from Sofia? And there's just going to be more communication that way. It would be nice. Maybe it's going to happen in WhatsApp, but if there's also, yeah, there becomes a way to communicate all of these things very easily.
Of course, we want to share stuff, right? So, for example, what we had at the co-working is when people leave, and because they can't take all the stuff on the plane, they leave like their old shower gel and stuff. So like leaf things. I don't expect that there are things that we can't have in Semkovo. So what we want to do in the grocery store, it's going to be full sortiment, meaning that everything that you actually need for your daily life will be available here on site. Also in Bulgaria, e-commerce is pretty well developed. So there's multiple shops where you can order everything similar to Amazon, and normally it arrives the next day. There's also a service called eBag here that is doing grocery deliveries, and also this normally arrives the next day. So if you want, like, for example, special Asian stuff, or now we have an owners meeting coming up on the weekend, and we ordered some stuff that's not available in local stores, then all this can, of course, be ordered online and be delivered very quickly here.
So
And
it,
this is
it
the idea. So it should not be like a Boy Scout experience where now we have to send out people to gather and forage for us. But no, we will have all the modern things that we need here.
okay, so all of these companies will deliver to Semkovo because I'm just checking. It sounds so remote. So
I mean, it is a little bit remote, as I said, it's 20 minutes to the next town. But we get deliveries here, so there's like 3 or 4 different courier services, and most of them arrive here daily because even now, without being operational, we got like a lot of shipments for deliveries and materials and things. And once there's 200 people here, I expect that they probably have their own Semkovo truck in the future, just because the amount of stuff that also nomads order online normally. So this will be a pretty big operation. And there's also the mayor just improved the road. So he managed to get about 5 million euro to resurface the road. So they resurfaced the road, and there was probably a little bit money left over to buy like a big snow truck. So they're also cleaning it 3 times a day. So even though we are a little bit away from other people, it's not like we are totally in the remote wilderness. So we have power, we have internet, we have roads. So it's like life here exists like in other places, just with less neighbors.
is the internet, Matthias? I think a lot of people want to know.
So luckily, and this is a little bit surprising to a lot of people that live in large cities, where it's maybe a little bit more difficult sometimes. But we have 2 university guest houses here, and they have fiber optic connections to the next uplink, and we are laying a fiber optic cable next to the road. It's about 1,000 meters or so, not very far, to the next uplink. So we will have 2 gigabit fiber here in the building. Also, at the moment, we have Starlink in the building. And this is normally meant as a backup connection, but also because we don't have many more neighbors, basically, we have one of the Starlink satellites more or less for ourselves because in a 20-kilometer radius, there's not many other people that have Starlink. Also, we have 5G mobile coverage here. So the antenna is in visible range of the building, probably because they want to get it down from the mountains to the lower areas. So they put a big antenna here. We have 5G, so internet here is pretty fast and will be pretty fast. And of course, this is also inside the building. So we have ordered about 150 access points. So the whole building and all apartments will have internet access. In the apartments themselves, we have uh, cables for Ethernet. So we have a gigabit connections in each apartment if people want to plug in. So I think the digital infrastructure is pretty solid here.
Amazing. Well, as people can see behind me, there's a lot of snow, and I imagine people might be wondering about how warm it's going to be inside the building. Is there going to be, I guess, heating and air conditioning in every unit plus all the common spaces?
Yeah, I mean, of course, inside the building will be heating, so it will be the same temperature as in other buildings. Outside, at the moment, I think it's minus 5 degrees Celsius or so. It's actually a little bit snowing. And this is the experience of basically you're sitting in a warm building and you look outside into the snow.
Okay, because I know you're still working on it. When I was there early January, it was still pretty cold to walk around, but you are making sure, as you said, everything is fitted in the whole building to be not have that problem
I mean, I
later on.
mean, of course, at the moment it's a construction site, right? So we're not gonna heat 16,000 square meters if there's nobody there. But we are installing new heating system. So there was a previous heating system. We are installing a new wood chip-based heating system for the central areas. Wood chip is a byproduct of forestry operations. And since we are surrounded by forestry, this is a very economic form of heating. We are also installing inverter ACs into each apartment. This is because they're also a very effective way of heating, and it's an easier control for the guests, like how hot or how cold they want to have it in the apartments. We put a new roof basically. So we added 3 centimeters of polyurethane foam, which is also like insulating for heat loss. Today, the guys arrived with like big glass separation walls. So the big lobby area that we see behind you is currently very open, like a shopping mall basically, with many areas that look beautiful but are not very usable. So we are putting some glass separation walls into some of these areas to make them more usable. And then, of course, also in these smaller areas, it will be much easier to heat and warm them up. But you have to wait until we start operating to really experience this, because heating a construction site is not really economically viable.
I think I'm so excited because I live in a country where there's not a lot of insulation in buildings, and you spend a lot of your time wearing a jacket inside, and it's depressing in the winter, even though it's not that cold outside.
Yeah, I mean, here in Bulgaria, especially where we are, this building is also like a solid structure, right? This is not with dry walls that maybe let the air in and badly insulated. This is all bricks and concrete. Here, the kind of like the people, when they built this, they knew that this is up in the mountains and that we have winter here. Um, and now we are just putting a little bit more modern equipment in that also we can heat this cost effective, because back then when the government was operating this and when they had this as a hotel, they used a diesel for heating basically, and the price of diesel has gone up quite a bit. So we have to look at different materials to get the heat.
Well, this all sounds like such an undertaking, but it sounds like it's really making progress and getting really close to opening, which is my next question. When are the first people going to be able to come to Semkovo and start this? Well, it's like a co-living experiment. The first
So
pioneers.
we are gonna open on 30th of June. Booking will start in a few weeks. We will first prioritize bookings for people that want to spend what we call the summer of nomads for the whole 3 months here in Semkovo, because also we want to build a community of people, and this works best if people come for longer periods. And then we will also allow booking for shorter periods, 2 months, 1 month. Um, and this will allow us to basically fill the building with the right people. I also expect that many of our owners will be here in the summer, so they want to experience their apartments, of course. And in this first year, unfortunately, we only have half of the capacity, so we will be ready with what we call Block A, which is 102 apartments. They are renovated now, and there we will also have all the common areas, the hallways, everything, the whole building will be ready. Block B, we're going to start operation. There's like 125 apartments, and also owners of Block B will be able to use their apartments for the summer. But generally, the guest operation for Block B will start only in the winter, which means that this first summer, we will only be about 150 people or so. So if you want to be part of this, already save the date, keep an eye on our website, and then once you see the booking form, immediately commit for the first 3 months.
Man, this is so exciting. Okay, there's an important thing I have to mention for those of you watching and listening. Semkovo is a child-free community, right, Matthias?
So we call it a distraction-free community. And of course, the biggest distraction is kids. So guests in our building are 18 plus.
And did you do that, or you decided that specifically because you feel like it's a place to focus and not have to be concerned about what's going on with children around? Or because I'm wondering what happens if someone buys an apartment and then has a child.
So we have actually many owners that have kids, probably about like a third or so. I think a lot of people realize that kids require their own environment, right? So when we started to talk about Semkovo, in my mind, we had two choices. Either we make this family friendly or we make this production focused. And I think there's like arguments for both sides. But for me, also because I don't have any kids, and a lot of my friends, my nomadic friends, don't have kids, we decided now we want to have an environment without kids. And we put this out as an idea, and we attracted a lot of people that think the same. This does not mean that these people hate kids. And as I mentioned, some of them actually have kids, but they also know that sometimes you need to disengage and you need to have an environment where you can be just yourself without being distracted by kids. And this is Semkovo.
Yeah, the other thing I would add for those who might have kids watching or were thinking about coming with kids maybe this summer, is that it is remote. So if there's something were to happen, on the site, and like you said, things have not been made to be like child friendly with corners of, tables and things like that. it's going to be a little while to get to a clinic or a hospital, I would imagine. So it's not the best place, I would say, especially,
I mean, there's many things, right? I mean, of course, there's a doctor in Belica, but kids need many things, right? They might need a kindergarten or a school. They have different requirements. Maybe they want to have a playground. Maybe when they want to use the pool, they want to use it in a different way than the other people want to use the pool. So for us, this is really a place without kids. And this, of course, also means that when we do events, and we plan to do some events, then we have to consider, do we want to open this up if people stay outside, for example, like for this music festival, we will have people that stay in camping tents and in glamping tents because our building just doesn't have the capacity for 1,300 people. And maybe for an event like this, it's possible to bring some kids. Why not? But in the building itself, it will still be more or less kids-free. There could be an exception for an event if we have a restaurant and we want to feed people. Of course, we will open the restaurant, but generally, it's really a distraction-free environment.
Yeah, just wanted to make that clear for everybody. Well, Matthias, congratulations again on starting such an ambitious project. It's going to be so interesting to see how it goes this year. And I really hope I can visit again. I really enjoyed my visit. It was inspiring to see how much you've done. And if people want to follow your project, where can they go? And also, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I mean, the best way to follow us is we have a Facebook page called Coliving Semkovo. We also have a website, Coliving Semkovo, where we share more official information. I think if you're interested in this project, you need to come on site, right? So we have one owner, and he shared some pictures on Reddit recently, and people on Reddit were like, "Oh, this is all AI and fake," and so they didn't even believe that this building would exist. And sometimes I feel the same, right? So when I walk through here, when they built this, they really built this to a very high standard. And they did a lot of things that you wouldn't do today. Like when I look at our lobby area, it's really built for space and even like this communist oppressive architecture that you feel very small because the building is very big. And they just didn't consider, is there like a functional reason why we build it like this? No, they built it to impress. And I think if you're interested, it's best to come on site to take a look at this yourself. Also, understand like what this amount of nature actually means to be surrounded by this. So here, when we look outside the windows, there's basically no bad views. You either look at one mountain or at another mountain. And then if you're lucky and you look on the parking lot, you will see our fox coming by and sniffing around the few cars that are there. So this is really a really cool environment where life is less busy and maybe it makes also life easier if you don't have to be stuck in traffic. You basically, your commute is you're walking down two staircases into the work area, and your shopping is you walk down another flight of stairs and you are in the shop. And then if you want to hang out with your friends, you kind of see them all the time in the building and you decide, hey, we want to cook together. So I think you need to see this building to really understand what we are building here and where this could lead us and meet some of the owners that we have in our group. It's a very diverse group. So we have some people that are just starting out or they maybe just finding out what they really want to do with their life. And we have other people that run like €100 million company. So it's a whole range of people. And I think this is super interesting because it also opens many opportunities for professional development, to find maybe travel buddies, to find romance, maybe even to make kids. But then when you make them, take them somewhere else afterwards.
Yeah, I was just thinking to get a chance to sit at the same table. Like if you buy an apartment for 50,000, you're just starting out, but to sit at the same table as someone that owns $100 million company, that is a very unique opportunity.
Yes, and what I have seen is, I mean, the people here that bought, all the owners are pretty normal, right? So we are not flashing our success. We have people that are normally probably staying in a five-star hotel, and here they help us at the barbecue. And I think this spirit of community is something that a lot of people really crave for, right? So we don't want to always have like these hierarchies. We just want to be humans and we want to have fun together, and everyone can contribute.
Yeah, and you want community, and people feel, I think, more and more alone as we get more and more digitally connected, but not physically connected. And to be have everyone right there, don't even have to leave the building to find them is really incredible. And it's going to be interesting, as I said, to see how things grow in such a space. Thank you again, Matthias, for joining us. It was a pleasure. Good luck with Co-Living Semkovo. And everybody, like you said, come and check it out if you're curious. Or you can look online, and there are still some apartments available.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Becky, and I hope to see you here in the summer, and then we explore the mountains together a little bit.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Matthias. Bye.